for the first time in 10 races. Spire Motorsports is putting somebody other than Shane Van Gisbergen behind the wheel of their third truck. And that's a bigger deal than it might sound like at first. I'm going to break down exactly what's happening, who's involved, and why this weekend at New Hampshire Motor Speedway is turning into one of the more interesting storylines in the Truck Series. Let's get into it. And hey, real quick, if you're a true NASCAR fan like me, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to the channel. NASCAR Nation news is just getting started. We are pushing for our next subscriber milestone, and it's all about real talk from fans who live this sport every week. All right, let's get into it. So here's the situation. Spire Motorsports runs a third truck in the Craftsman Truck Series, the number 71 Chevrolet. But this thing barely sees the track. In fact, it's only been entered 4 times all season long in 2026. And every single one of those recent entries has been Shane Van Gisbergen behind the wheel. The last time SVG drove it was back in mid-July at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Before that, you have to go all the way back to May to find a race where somebody else was driving that truck. That was Connor Zilisch at the road course race at Watkins Glen International. SVG then jumped back in for Charlotte Motor Speedway later that same month. So for months now, this truck has basically been SVG's truck, but that changes this weekend. At New Hampshire Motor Speedway, Connor Zilisch is confirmed to be back in the number 71 Chevrolet, and this will actually be his third Truck Series start of the entire 2026 season. Not a huge number of starts, but each one has come with some solid results, and we'll get to that in a minute. But here's the thing. Zilisch getting the seat is only part of the story. There's something else going on here that's honestly just as interesting. According to the report, there was originally a rule in place that would have kept drivers with fewer than 3 years of Cup Series experience out of this weekend's race entirely. This weekend is the Truck Series regular season finale, so that rule would have mattered a lot. But at some point since the off-season, NASCAR clearly changed that rule. Because Zilisch is not the only young, limited experience Cup driver set to compete this weekend. He's actually one of 3 full-time Cup Series drivers entered in this race. Hunter Nemechek is set to drive for Tricon Garage, and Christopher Bell is set to drive for Halmar Friesen Racing. 3 current Cup drivers all jumping into the Truck Series for this one race. That's not something you see every week, and it tells you this particular event carries some extra weight heading into the postseason. Now let's talk about how Zilisch has actually performed in that number 71 truck so far, because the numbers are pretty encouraging. His most recent Truck Series start came at Charlotte, where he was driving the number 77 Chevrolet at the time, and he crossed the line in 3rd place. Before that, at Watkins Glen, he finished 2nd, so heading into New Hampshire, Zilisch is coming off 2 strong finishes in a row, a 3rd and a 2nd. That's the kind of momentum that makes this weekend worth watching. Zilisch won't be the only new face in this truck lineup either. He's joining a group that includes Connor Mosack and Tristan McKee. Mosack is said to drive the number 7 Chevrolet. That's notable because SVG was actually the one who drove that same truck at Richmond Raceway. So we're seeing a bit of a shuffle across multiple Spire trucks this weekend, not just the number 71. And then there's Tristan McKee, who's set to make his 2nd career start in the number 77 truck. His first start came at Richmond, so New Hampshire will be a chance for him to build on that early experience. Now, what happens after this weekend? According to the report, there are currently no further plans for the number 71 truck to run again for the rest of the season. And honestly, that lines up with how it's been used all year, since it's only been driven by Cup Series drivers in 2026. Daniel Suarez also had a run in that truck back in April at Bristol Motor Speedway. One more important detail to keep in mind here. Cup drivers are not allowed to compete in Truck Series playoff races. That rule has not changed. So once the Truck Series moves into its postseason, this door closes for guys like Zilisch, Nemechek, and Bell, which makes this New Hampshire race one of the last chances to see this kind of Cup crossover for a while. So to recap, Connor Zilisch is back in the number 71 Chevrolet for Spire this weekend at New Hampshire and need a 10-race stretch of SVG running that truck. He joins 2 other full-time Cup drivers in the field thanks to a rule change since the offseason, and he's coming in off back-to-back top 3 finishes. So here's my question for you guys. With the playoffs locking Cup drivers out after this weekend, do you think we'll see more of this kind of crossover next season? Or was this a one-time thing? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you like this video and subscribe to NASCAR Nation News. We'll see you in the next one.